Business Day TV, channel 412. Welcome back. Lesaka Technologies has delivered a 19% jump in revenue and managed to narrow its net loss by 42% to 105 million rand. This was boosted by its fintech business, and its cost-cutting measures started paying off. And joining me now to take us through the company's first quarter performance is Group CEO Chris Meyer. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. Now, how would you actually describe and characterize this quarter? Because it seems that there are a lot of turning points within your financial metrics, with the net loss narrowing, and there was a return of to operating profitability as well.
Yes, Zati, thank you very much, firstly, for having me on the show. We appreciate it. Yes, as you say, a milestone for us, Q1, in that we've returned to operating profitability as a business for the first time in 5 years. So
wow.
That's a big milestone. That's testament to the journey we've been on over the last 2 years, turning around the consumer business and the integration of the Connect acquisition as our merchant business. And along with that profitability, operating profitability milestone, we've also achieved guidance in terms of our revenue for the quarter. So we, very happy with that. And underpinning all of that, we're seeing great momentum in both the consumer and the merchant business. The consumer business has now given us 4 quarters in a row of profitability. So that's the turnaround, really taking hold, and we're very excited about the momentum we're seeing in terms of client acquisition, and doing more for those clients. And then on the merchant side, the growth continues. We're signing up new merchants and doing more with those merchants.
Yeah, exactly. Growth continues, and it really also seems like in this kind of environment, you build the plane while flying it. You have obviously implemented these turnaround measures that have led to your highlights. But of course, you don't operate in isolation. There's still macroeconomic challenges. So where are you seeing the kind of challenges being concentrated at the moment?
Yeah, so our customer base, both merchant and consumer, are feeling the environment as much as anybody else. Our merchants are small merchants, are mainly in the informal economy, and our customers are mainly grant recipients, so amongst the poorest people in our society. So, they're feeling the effects of high inflation, the cost of living, load shedding.
Yeah.
But I think what's important is, our business, Lesaka is not a proxy for SA Inc. GDP.
Yeah.
What we're really facilitating is this move from cash to digital that is taking place, and is taking place especially in the informal economy. And we're starting to see, good adoption of digital through our card payment technology. And we're seeing a strong growth in our VAS products, our value-added services that our merchants are selling to consumers coming into their stores. So yes, it's a tough environment, but the theme of cash to digital is a growth story.
Yeah.
And the product set generally that we're offering are essential goods and basic needs, serving the basic needs of our customer base.
All right. I mean, one of the factors that you have been working on over the last few years as well is cost-cutting measures. And I'm wondering how much room you have in terms of that, trimming the fat even more as you go forward.
So our cost cutting was more around optimizing the consumer business and repositioning it.
Yeah.
But the way I like to describe that is what we took over was a business that was I'm going to call it a logistics business.
Yeah.
It was in the logistics of moving cash from A to B. And we've repositioned it now as a business focused on client service. Our client is in the consumer business is a grant beneficiary, and we need to win that customer. We need to delight that customer because our customer has choice. And so the cost cutting for us was really cost optimization. It was moving out of branches that were no longer needed, moving ourselves to points of presence where our customers wanted to be, because they've got choice. We closed a lot of ATMs that were inefficient and were not being used, and we moved them into retailers. So it was a repositioning more than cost cutting, and it was a big you talk about flying the plane while
Yeah.
fixing it. I mean, it really was. But we took something, like a third of our cost base out in that consumer business over the course of FY22 and 23. I'm going to say that work is done. We now have a base to grow from, and we've got good operational leverage in our, in our consumer business, so we can take on significant customer numbers without really having to take on significant more cost within that business.
Well, let's talk about that growth, because, I mean, you talk about moving from cash to digital. There's a really, really big fintech drive within Africa. What does the runway look like in terms of geographic growth in your footprint in Africa?
So, our focus primarily is South Africa, and I'm going to say Southern Africa, some of our neighboring countries.
Yeah.
We talk about earning the right to look beyond our borders.
Yeah.
We're early stages in our growth story here, and we feel there's plenty of growth runway in South Africa in the informal economy. The informal economy, in my mind, is to a large extent untapped. And so, we see good growth potential in our local market, and we will focus on that. And then, in time, maybe we'll start to raise our eyes to the horizons and thinking about other areas.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time in unpacking those numbers that we saw coming out of Lesaka Technologies for the first quarter of the 2024 financial year. Thank you so much for your time, Chris. That was the Group CEO of Lesaka Technologies.